Hello guys, today I'll be showcasing the latest free-to-play Vanguard, BROLY. BROLY was released at Update 8.5. He's the second free Vanguard in the game and is the Evo for the old Vegeta from the first release of the game. By the way, this is the familiar that I'm using on him. Personally, I think this is the best familiar for him, especially if you have a good roll on it. Otherwise, just use the new Chilai familiar that you can buy from the dungeon shop. Before we start the showcase, let's talk about his passive and domain. Now let's talk about his first passive, Quick Learner. Whenever his crit rate goes over 100%, the extra percentage gets added to his crit damage. For example, if he has 110% crit rate, that extra 10% is converted into crit damage. He also gains 5% crit rate every wave, so it's best to place him as early as possible. On placement, he starts with a 50% crit rate, but you lose that bonus once you upgrade him. Lastly, whenever he crits, he cleanses himself of any debuffs. So if BROLY gets energy drained, he'll immediately cleanse it and get his damage back. For his second passive, Unrestrained Power, whenever he lands a crit, he triggers Attack 3, a full AoE attack, and also gives him a 50% damage boost. On top of that, whenever he uses Attack 3, he inflicts Rupture, which is a solid extra effect. Last but not least, we have Innocent Rage. Every time BROLY crits, his upgrade cost is reduced by 2%, stacking up to 30%, though this buff resets whenever you upgrade him. On the other hand, whenever he doesn't crit, he follows up with Attack 1, a circle AoE attack, then his damage gets buffed by 50% for 60 seconds. Now let's talk about his domain, Wrathful Clash. While this ability is active, all units with the Unbound element, excluding Kaguya, gain 20% crit rate per wave, stacking up to 100%. After 7 waves, instead of crit rate, they start gaining 10% crit damage per wave. Though it doesn't say it, this domain only lasts for 15 waves. Now that we're done talking about his passives, let's finally get into the showcase. As usual, I will be upgrading him one by one so you guys can see how much he does per upgrade. He starts off with a standard circle AoE and has a 55% crit rate at upgrade 0 if you don't have any familiars. At upgrade 2, his AoE changes into a slightly larger line AoE. You'll also notice that he loses his initial 50% crit rate buff. Then at upgrade 4, he transforms, which is pretty cool, and gains a full AoE, which is insane considering how early he gets it. At upgrade 7, he reverts back to a circle AoE, which is kind of an L. The only upside is that he at least still triggers a full AoE as a follow-up whenever he crits. At upgrade 9, he goes through his final transformation, turning into full power Super Saiyan. His AoE switches to a slim cone type, which honestly isn't that great. Finally, at his last upgrade, he keeps the cone AoE, but it becomes much larger. Exactly what you'd want for a better AoE. Now that we've seen what he can do at max upgrade, let's take a look at how powerful he becomes when his domain is active. Check out how much crit damage he's stacking each wave. By the 15th wave, his damage and DPS will most likely be insane. By the 15th wave, he's sitting at X3.62 crit damage. If the calculations are correct, that puts him at nearly 2 million damage every 8.4 seconds, all while buffing Unbound element units, which is absolutely insane. When his damage is divided by his SPA, he's hitting around 237,000 DPS, while still supporting other Unbound units, which is pretty damn good. Keep in mind, he also triggers follow-up attacks, so these numbers aren't exact. He's still doing even more damage. After his domain ends, he loses a lot of his crit damage, dropping to X 1.72, which brings his damage down to 710,549, which is still pretty high, don't get me wrong. And that's where the video ends. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon on the next upcoming showcase. Bye-bye!